So what is it that makes someone an enterprising Australian? What are the skills that you need to develop to further your career success? Well, each week on Career Success, we'll be taking a look at an enterprising Australian to understand what have they done to reach the pinnacle of their career. They both start with the letter A, but there's a world of difference between accounting and advertising. Here we are at Publicis Mojo, Australia's leading advertising agency, and in tonight's Hitting Success segment, we're going to meet Rob Hartnett, who started his career as a bean counter and now is a senior partner. When you were at high school, Rob, what subjects did you choose, and how did you go about choosing what subjects to study?
It was interesting, Bill, because if I take it back one step, while I did the primary school thing around Moonee Ponds in that area, Mum and Dad sort of coughed a few dollars together and I went to Scotch College. And that really was a major change in where, what I was been doing, and that did influence a lot of things in terms of the business world and subjects I did. So yeah, that did influence a lot of things, and there was a lot of guidance from the school as well, and my parents as well in terms of what I did. But essentially it was around business. I really enjoyed doing business. I think Dad had high aspirations for me to do medicine, mainly because he thought he'd be able to get a Porsche pretty early on in his life. But business is what I really enjoyed, and growing up in small business, it's just all encompassing. It's what you do, 24 hours, so you really are focused on that. And so I always had a great interest in it.
So Rob, you got a lot of exposure to business, with your mum and dad having a family business and you working in it. You had some good mentors and career advisors at Scotch College. How did those things combine for you to then enter into the business world?
Yeah, a lot of sport. Initially my parents are very heavily into the automotive sport side of things, but also yacht racing as well. So while I grew up in the motorsport stuff, yachting was, I guess, a passion of mine, and I've competed internationally and also represented the country a number of times. And during that time, which was a bit of an influence on business, it's an interesting circle. A lot of people I sailed with, and especially some of the wealthier owners with the larger yachts, got to sail with those guys and socialise and mix with them. And sailing at a very competitive level, they took it like a business. They treated the yacht racing like a business. You actually got to see how these guys went about almost everything they did in their life. Like the way they sailed their yachts was very reflective of how they ran their businesses. So
you went out and joined a big mining company here in Australia.
A couple of interesting things about CRA. Fantastic company, but as you probably know, Steve Vizard worked there, interestingly enough, at CRA. And so there's actually been a few sort of comedians who've come out of there. Richard Stubbs is another one who worked at CRA as well. So I thought, this is an interesting company. They're going there, what the hell's in the water? Started to do some management reports. And I had a bit of a flair, which is, I guess has probably come through now, in the sort of marketing and look and feel of how the management reports would look. And I actually, in the first 6 months, I was, as you say, quite young when you come out, I was actually doing the board reports and the management reports and actually working with some of the CEOs and division heads about how their management reports would look at board meetings. So I was actually getting involved in foreign exchange and what the metal prices were doing, and actually liaising with some pretty senior management at that time.
Rob, there's a lot of people that are actually stuck in a career rut. They're very unhappy with the jobs they've got, but they just don't feel they can get out of it, or they don't know what to do. What ideas have you got for what they should try and start doing tomorrow to improve the situation for themselves?
Change their outlook. I'd say to people, go to a different cafe on the weekend, go and see a different movie, read a different magazine, pick up a different newspaper, just try and get some perspective. But take a break from it. If you can take a week off, take a week off. Take a month, take a month. If you've got 15 minutes, go to a different cafe. But do try and get a different perspective, because quite often we're very myopic about our situation and our life, and it's all very us.
Rob, when I speak to a lot of CEOs and ask them what are they looking for in terms of hiring people, what I hear time and time again is they're looking for people that will be organisationally smart and savvy. What does that mean to you?
I think it's important that they know about the organisation, that they've actually done their research on it. And that's just not research, especially if it's a global organisation. You try and get a vision for where it's going, where the organisation's values are, its culture, its philosophy. Certainly in this industry, and in every advertising agency, I think, has its own culture. Mojo certainly has a very strong culture of being really in touch with the Australian consumer and being very creative. And it's very important you know that, even to not so much what you wear, but just in terms of how they think.
Rob, looking back over the last 20 years, what would you say would be the highlights, the high points of your career to date?
I guess the transition and the changes I've been able to make and moving through those career changes, from working in accounting, and it's kind of bizarre to think, I was running treasury and taxation at Kraft Foods, back in those days, and then I went straight into sales, like completely cold turkey, went into the sales world to give it a go. And I think it's really important when you think of something. I guess my motto is no regrets. Don't sort of regret about it. I think in 10 years' time, I should have given that a shot, because you don't know unless you actually go and do it.
You're a boss now of a number of people. You've got a boss, you've had a number of bosses throughout your career. An effective working relationship with the boss is clearly really important.
What advice have you got for people on how to establish a good working relationship with their boss?
I think it's understanding what their drivers are from a personal point of view and also from a company point of view. You know, understanding almost how they're remunerated, what's driving them, what are their KPIs, you know, what are their key indicators that they've got to meet for their organisation is really important. And empathy, it's just, and how you can help. You know, there's no boss in the world, you know, will ever knock back someone coming up with a creative idea or an idea that will, you know, help them along, help the business go their way. It shows understanding, shows passion, just going the extra bit of length in time and, you know, staying there and getting the job done.
Rob, we really appreciate hearing about your journey to date, and good luck with the rest of the journey.
Great, thanks Bill.